At this point, things are looking fairly good. But now we have a new issue. If I visit this in a browser where I'm not signed in, it redirects us to the login or register page, and we get this error. Now, this is related to the fact that we updated our layout file an episode or two ago. That layout file assumes you're signed in, so you see the sidebar links there. So you have a few options here. Let's talk about it. If I go to my layout file, right here is our header, here's our main section, and yeah, if you want, you could limit this to only signed in users. So if you're signed in, then display the sidebar links. And then we'll do the exact same thing down here. This feels a little weird to me, and I feel like it's going to break pretty quickly as soon as I need a little more flexibility. But nonetheless, if I refresh the page, that does work. However, I want to show you a slightly different approach using Blade components. So have a look here. In my views directory, I'm going to add a new directory called components, and I'll begin by creating a master layout component. Okay, so we can take what we have here and move it in. But now, rather than any specifics, here we're assuming a 3-column layout. I don't want anything like that. I literally want the master skin. So that would be our head section, our wrapping div, and that's really about it. Maybe the header if you want. So let's get rid of this, and instead we'll replace it with a default slot. Okay, so now we have a generic master page. Next, let's create another one. This will be our app component. So this is just a different way to structure things, not necessarily better or worse. But in cases where you do need multiple layout files, I think you might find it gives you a little more flexibility. Okay, so now notice for app, let's grab this and get rid of everything else. Now instead, we're going to reference our Blade component. So we can either do it like this, or if you happen to be using Laravel 7 or above, you could instead do X and then the component name. And in this case, that would be master. All right, so now notice in our master page, we have this slot here. That means anything within this tag will be slotted in there. And I'll paste that in. All right, so now think about it. We have a app layout file that is composed with this master layout file here. And this is where we store our 3-column layout. So now here, we'll replace this with the same thing. We'll slot in the default content for our app layout component. And that's it. So now check it out. If we come back to our register page, we're going to replace all of this with our master layout. Because remember, in this case, I don't want an app layout. I don't want the 3 columns. I want our standard master page. All right, let's see if it works. We come back to Chrome, give it a refresh, and it does work. Now, of course, it looks horrible in this case. Maybe we can quickly, and this still uses Twitter Bootstrap from the default Laravel UI. Let's do a couple things. Let's give it some padding on the top and bottom, and then a gray background. Yeah, just something to get us going really quick. The header will be bold, text large, and then a little margin below it. And then finally, for the register button right here, we'll do some padding on the left and right and the top. We'll make it rounded with small text. That's uppercase. Finally, a background color of blue. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's have a look. We switch back, and then we just need a little spacing there, and we'll make that darker. All right, so right up here, margin bottom 6. And yeah, maybe later we'll redo this, but this will get us started. Yep, and then finally, text white. Okay, good enough for me. So we have our register page. We have our login page that we need to update as well. So I know there's a login button. I will copy that, and I'll switch back, and this will all be replaced with our master. So again, it's just a different way to structure these pages, like so. So bear with me. We will once again update the heading. And then if we scroll down, the login button as well. Let's come back, refresh, pretty close. And then finally, once again, we'll update this, and I'll paste that in. Same as before. Great. So now if I sign in as John, and it fails, but we'd expect this. We haven't updated our tweets page. So we'll go here and replace all of this with not the master component, but in this case, our standard layout component. Like so. And then as a good practice, let's have a single root element. Okay, so now come back and refresh, and there we go. So this is a useful and alternative way that you can allow for multiple layout files and even nested layout files. Otherwise, with the traditional approach, you can definitely do it, but I don't know, it gets kind of tricky. And often you don't want to repeat yourself, for example, in the head section. So you'll think, well, I'm going to extract that to a partial, maybe head, and then maybe the same for footer. So now you have multiple layout files that are requiring the same partials. You got to keep them in sync, and it just gets a little bit tricky. So I like this approach, a single master layout file. And then if you need any alterations or tweaks, like we have in this case, you can use it like so.